Talking about opposition and issues, I mean, the Waqf Amendment Bill is a hot topic. You're one of the members actually tabling that bill in the parliament right now. And I was trying to look up what the original Waqf Act was, and I put it through the wonderful AI software known as Perplexity AI to figure out what it was. And it was roughly designed to better manage the properties of the Waqf in a line, if I could say that. Now, your side argues that this actually led to overreach, and you want to amend that. And in September 2024, the Waqf board claimed roughly 200 properties in Delhi alone. Right now, one could ask you, if you want to table a bill, you could do something around healthcare, perhaps more jobs, perhaps something that opens up education. Why have a bill that is so inherently communal in nature?
Well, I think if we are trying to address the problem of the Waqf, it doesn't mean we are not addressing the problem of health and education. The government has already brought the new education policy, which was necessitated because for almost 4 decades, the country's previous governments did not refresh or revise the country's education policy. So for almost after 43 years, the Modi government came up with a new National Education Policy 2020. Insofar as health is concerned, we have built more medical colleges in the last 10 years than what was built in the last 70 years. And we have brought the new health policy. So all of these have been addressed. So what actually, happens is, especially in these kind of matters, this is called, shifting the goalpost. If I'm speaking of the Waqf or I'm speaking of some other issue, then, you will say, what about the potholes in the constituency?
No, I'm not talking about water.
No, I'm saying that the reason why the Waqf bill was important, the reforms for the Waqf bill is important, is twofold. One, after the railways and the defense, the Waqf board has control over the largest number of land in the country. Close to 39 lakh acres across the country, which is a huge amount of land.
So land control or land claimed?
Control. And the two problems that are there with the existing act is, those who are in control of the property, they are misusing it for objectives other than what the original Waqf was made for, which has resulted in tremendous corruption and encroachment of Waqf properties. So the act itself inherently is opaque, and those who are in charge of the Waqf properties are given such unbridled powers that they are misusing those powers for their own pecuniary benefit. So in one sense, the Waqf Act is not even protecting the Waqf properties. Second, the act is also draconian in many ways, so much so that the Waqf boards, in multiple provisions of the act, is given powers to claim any land that it believes to be Waqf property. And the Waqf board can cause issuance of a gazette notification to the effect that that particular property over which it claims its right, it can cause issuance of a gazette notification by the state revenue authorities. And upon such issuance of gazette notification, the revenue authorities will have to mandatorily change your mutation land revenue records, and your land becomes practically dead, redundant.
How do they substantiate this belief? If I'm a member of one Waqf, how do I think about, say, a property 3 kilometers away and then substantiate this is Waqf land?
So there are two concepts in the Waqf Act. One is called a Waqf by user. Supposedly a particular piece of land is being used or has been used as a Waqf property for any prayer or as a qabristan or objective of this kind. Then even without any documentation, by the sheer fact of usage, you can claim that particular property to be Waqf property. Coupled with this legal principle of Waqf by user, there is also this provision called Section 40 in the Waqf Act. Section 40 essentially does this. It gives the Waqf board the power to claim any property that it believes, this is the word that is there in the Act, that it believes to be Waqf property. It can conduct an inquiry, and upon its being satisfied, it can declare that particular property to be Waqf property.
Like some historical claim of an Islamic.
It need not even be historic. The Section 40 of Waqf Act does not have any such qualifications. All it says is that the Waqf board has powers to conduct an inquiry on any land or any property that it believes to be Waqf property.
But what's the nature of this inquiry?
I mean, the nature of the inquiry is to find out if, the property was Waqf property or not. And the Act does not go into the details of specifying what needs to be done.
Wow.
If you want to watch small segments of the podcast, subscribe to Dostcast Clips.
Okay, not just this. Let me, because you have brought this issue up, let me take you through the other certain provisions of this. Now, there is a concept of limitation in all litigation that is in the country. So, if you approach a court on a cause of action, there is a stipulated time before which you need to approach the court. You cannot go to the court on the basis of a prehistoric or a very old claim all of a sudden today. And even if you go to a court and there is a order that is made in your favor or against you, then there is again a certain stipulated period within which you have to approach the higher court in appeal. So this is called the period of limitation. And there is an act called the Limitation Act that governs this whole limitation on litigation. The objective behind this is that people should not go in litigation before courts based on claims that do not have, or cause of action that does not have, of recent vintage, to prevent frivolous litigation.
Sure.
But the Waqf Act deals with limitation in two ways. Now, if the Waqf board claims your property to be a Waqf property and issues your property in the list of the Waqf, then you have 1 year within which you can go and appeal. You can go before the Waqf tribunal within 1 year.
Oh, I have to appear before a tribunal of the Waqf.
Yeah, I will come to the tribunal.
As opposed to a
civil court, but I'll come to the tribunal part. I'm dealing with the limitation part now. So if the Waqf claims your property to be its own, then you can go against that order in appeal to the Waqf board's tribunal within 1 year. If you delay it more than 1 year, you cannot go. But for the Waqf board to claim any property as its own, there is no period of limitation. So when we went to Hyderabad, when we went to some instances in Kerala, in some instances in Bangalore, the contention of the Waqf board is that these properties were given to us by Aurangzeb. These properties were given to us by the Nawab. And what documentation do you have to prove that? No, we don't have. But is there no limitation because 300 years ago this claim was made? No, it doesn't apply because the limitation law does not apply on the Waqf.
Right.
So a farmer in Hyderabad made this very telling comment. He said, Aurangzeb may have died 350 years ago, but his ghost is still encroaching our lands. So this is with respect to the law of limitation. Now, come to the fact of the Waqf tribunal. Now, suppose you and I have a litigation with respect to our property. Then we have to approach the civil court. Suppose you have a litigation with respect to a temple property. Say a temple claims your property to be the temple's property, or a church claims its property to be yours. Then you will have to go to the civil court to disprove its claims.
Sure, show my original.
And it's a secular civil court. But with respect to a Waqf claim, you cannot go before the civil court. You will have to go before its own court, the Waqf tribunal.
And what's their mode of justice? How do they decide if you're...
No, there is a rules of procedure under the Waqf Act as to how it is done. But essentially, it is a tribunal under the Waqf Act. So, under Section 40, the Waqf Board has powers to conduct an inquiry and determine a particular land to be Waqf land or not. So, you are an inquirer in your own case. Then, if the person who has a problem with it, if they have to go to court, they have to go to court within 1 year before the Waqf tribunal. And if the Waqf tribunal gives a order, passes a order, then you cannot go in appeal on the against that order to either the High Court or the Supreme Court. You only have to go under the writ jurisdiction. So you are an inquirer, you are the jury, and you are also the executioner in the same case. And after you decide, after you pass an order and declare you to be an encroacher, under the Waqf Act, the Waqf Board under Section 54 also has the powers to remove the encroacher. So there is no other authority in India, or dare say anywhere in the world, which has these kind of draconian powers.
But two questions. One, I think many people don't know what a Waqf is. They do know about the act. They read it on the news section of Google. They certainly see it trending on Twitter. Second, can you not bypass the Waqf Board and talk about these injustices and take the case to Supreme Court against the Waqf?
Well, the job of the parliament is to legislate. So if the parliament in its wisdom feels that the particular legislation is deficient in certain aspects, then it is open in all means. It is the prerogative, the duty of the parliament to legislate it and bring about the changes.
But what is
so we don't have to go to the Supreme Court in this case. Waqf essentially is a dedication of a property made by a Muslim in the name of Allah for religious purposes. This is what is the meaning of Waqf. It is like an endowment, a donation that is made in the name of Allah, and this donation is in perpetuity. So if somebody makes a donation to Waqf, it is a permanent dedication in the name of the God. This is essentially what is a Waqf.